Welcome back to the Nice to Meet You podcast. It's Wednesday. Y'all already know what happens on Wednesday. Yeah, it's time for a new episode. And this is your host, your girl, Lynette. How have y'all been enjoying season 3 of the Nice to Meet You podcast? I've been truly enjoying the episodes, the guests that I've had on. Hopefully you've checked out the latest episode. The Fear Was Never There with my cousin Allison Williams. Her testimony was powerful and great. So check that episode out. She shared her journey of overcoming breast cancer for 4 years, working with the police department, writing Christian romance, and then check out Roy Fraction, Learning the Game. That was a couple weeks ago. Check the episode out. And then my first episode, my other guest, Yaman Jackson, Becoming a Conservative with Yaman Jackson. Check that episode out. And then few episodes in between with just the solo episodes from your girl Lynette. So today, I hope y'all feeling good, looking good. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. The Nice to Meet You podcast is all about inspiring one another to become the best version of yourself, so you truly know who is staring back at you in the mirror. And if you've been rocking with me since day one, I appreciate it. One of my videos, the daddy-daughter relationship, on YouTube reached 1,000 views, and I appreciate everyone who's taking time out of their day to watch that video or any other videos on my channel. I truly appreciate you all for subscribing. I have a new goal of 150 subscribers, so help me reach that goal. Help your girl out. Hit that subscribe button if you're watching this on YouTube, or if you're listening on one of the major podcast platforms. Head on over to YouTube and subscribe to the Lynette Sowing Seeds of Love YouTube channel. I truly appreciate it, because this channel or this podcast is all about just positivity, spreading love and light, because there's so much negativity in the world. And so today, season 3 continues, and this week is another solo mission. As you all know, that usually I usually talk to God, or I just wonder, usually reflects on the things that I've been dealing with, or things that I've been focusing on, because I'm a very self-reflective person. I don't know if any of y'all out there are very self-reflective, but I always sit and ask myself, like, why am I doing what I'm doing? Or I reflect over the week, over my past week, or things that I have coming up. I just always reflect. I'm always trying to grow and figure out ways that I can do things differently, because it's all about growth. The Mamba mentality. Kobe, my boy Kobe, always said we try to be better each day than we were the day before. So this week, as you all know, I watched my girl Ayana. Ayana fixed my life, and she's down to her last episode. And so this past Saturday, she had a family on there, and the mom had brought them there because she was through the pandemic. As you all know out there, we've been in the house so long, and then people have found out really how we feel about certain family members and certain relationships. And some family members, some friendships have been tested in this pandemic. Some marriages have ended. And I kind of agree with Ayana. I think that some of the things that were going on have been festering. It's just the pandemic magnified them. I don't think that these are new issues. If I feel like any issues that we're going through with our family members or our friends for being in the house so much, that those issues probably were already there, but we were just too busy to really focus on them. And so I know for me, I finished my student teaching, so I've been in the house more until I start up a part-time job or seasonal job that I'm going to do in the summertime, just to hold me over until I start my new teaching job, July 26th. I'll be starting my teaching job, and I'll be teaching the first grade or the second grade. But in the meantime, I've been in the house a little bit more, just waiting to start the seasonal job next week on the 17th. And so, man, just me going from working every day, being busy every day, planning lessons every day. It's like when you're so busy, when I'm so busy, that sometimes the things that have been bothering me, I haven't had a chance to focus on them, because they're still there. Like I said, the pandemic, with the relationships that have been tested during the pandemic, because we've been together so much, that those issues were there. We just probably were too busy to focus on them. So I say, for me, being so busy working with the kids, planning them, and I miss the kids, by the way. I truly miss my first graders. So, yeah, that's the thing that probably sucks about teaching, that you're going to make these relationships, or I made these relationships with these kids, and they became a part of me, and I miss seeing their faces. And so, shouts out to the kids. But anyway, just me being in the house more is that giving me more time to sit with my thoughts. And I'm the type of person, I love people. People give me energy. I love being around them. And so being in the house more has given me more time to, because I told you I stopped with the dating apps and have just kind of become content. Or at least I thought I became content with being single. So, because I haven't really had time to focus on meeting anyone because I've been so busy with school and stuff like that. But being in this house this past week or so, it'll be 2 weeks before I, start the seasonal job, or 2 weeks time span between finishing student teaching to starting the seasonal job for the summer. It's giving me time to think, and I've been thinking about, man, this sucks being single, in my late 30s, and not being married, not having kids, and it starts to weigh heavily on me. I start talking to God and start having my pity parties. Not really pity parties. I mean, they're legit. I have legit questions as to why I don't have the things that I have, and I just keep telling that God knows best. He hasn't given it to me yet. It must be for a reason. And so, I don't know. Just these are the thoughts that have been in my head. I don't know about you all, but being in the house is for the birds. This is for the pits. But it does, being quiet and being with yourself lets you know what's really on your heart. Because sometimes we're so busy, we're not as self-reflective because we don't have time. It doesn't mean, my therapist told me that, it doesn't mean that the issue's not there anymore. It's that you're just so busy that you don't recognize it. And so for me, back to Ayala, how Ayala inspired this episode today, was she was talking about this toxic family, or just, so someone told me there aren't toxic people. There's people have toxic tendencies. And so I'll say that they had toxic tendencies in this family where everyone was afraid of the mother, that they was afraid of backlash, so they wouldn't say to her the things that they wanted to say. The daughters wouldn't say what they wanted to say, the husband wouldn't say what they wanted to say, and they had boundary issues. So there was a grown daughter, I think the mom was 51 and the daughter was 30. One daughter was 32 and one was 26. And so they came to the show to Ayala Fix My Life because they were scared of backlash from their mother. And so Ayala was like, you're a grown A woman. And she was like, your mother, not that you, talk to your mother or your parent with respect, but that as an adult, you can, speak woman to woman and check her when she's, out of bounds or she's crossed over, her boundaries. And so this made me today want to talk about boundaries and why we need boundaries. And so how that the relationship that your parent is always going to be your parent. That's just, it is what it is. But that your parent must also, when you're grown, respect your boundaries as an adult and speak to you as an adult. I feel like they should not still be speaking to you like you're a child, because your relationship evolves as you get mature, you get older, that you have your own mind, and the decisions, like Ayala was saying, that the decisions that the lady on the show, the decisions that her children make she may not always agree with them, and so she may offer advice to her child, but the child, is up to the child. As a grown adult, it's up to you to listen to your parents' advice and then take what you want to take and then throw back or leave whatever doesn't work for you. Because when it all comes down to it, you're an adult and you have to live this life. Your parent has already lived their life, and so now you're living your life. And whatever decision you make, they may not like. Our parents may not like the decision that we make, but they should respect it. And so if you ever want to sit down, I know for me. And this episode kind of hit home for me, because sometimes with my mom, me being a grown 37-year-old woman, it's like I fear the backlash of what she's going to say if I say something. But I realize, like Ayana said, I'm grown, and the decisions that I make, I have to live with. And so we should never, me speaking to myself, we should never allow our parents to make us feel like some decision that we made that we should be afraid to say these things to them because we're grown, we're an adult, and they live their lives. So we have to, I feel like parents, and I'm not a parent, I will be a parent one day, that you want to prevent your child from, making any mistakes, but sometimes we learn best by making mistakes, and you can't prevent your child because you're not always going to be there. So that child should be able to think for themselves, and you shouldn't always try to come rescue and save them. And respect boundaries. So boundaries, I didn't know what boundaries were. If you go back to previous episodes, I'm like, boundaries, what is that? And so boundaries, so for me, like I said, I struggle with codependency where I have a need to be needed. And so I'm still overcoming that. And so boundaries, and you'll see me looking over to the side because I'm reading this article that I Googled about respecting and building strong personal boundaries. And it's from Mark Manson, and I'll leave this link to this article in the show notes, but he says the same thing, that usually people that struggle with boundaries have just a need to be needed, and they have a need to please everybody, so they don't really say that in a respectful manner. Say no. No is a sentence. Or you say no and there's a period, there's no comma, there's nothing else that needs to follow up, because if you say no and you just don't want to do something, you just don't want to do it. You don't even actually have to give anyone an explanation as to why you don't want to do anything. No is a sentence. No, period. All right. But I didn't realize that boundaries, like I would do things for people because I had a need to be needed. And I feel like if I did these things for people, that they would love me, they would like me, they would be, want to be around me. But people should like me for who I am, not for what I do for them. And if I have friends or family members or whoever, associates, constituents, whoever around me because I do things for them, then if I stop doing those things for them, then they're going to leave. So they're with me, kind of like with Jesus, the fishes and the loaves and the people around him, the 5,000 people that he fed. But where were those people? I just heard T.D. Jakes say this recently. Where were those people when Jesus got beaten and died on the cross for our sins? Where were the lepers that he healed? Where was the lady that he healed from the lady that was bleeding? That, like, where were those people when he was dying on the cross? It's like people come for the miracles, the fishes and the loaves and things like that. But when you're in a real bind or when you really need them, where are those people? So it is a good idea to have boundaries. Boundaries are not bad. Boundaries are good. That's where you have healthy relationships. And so I'm going to read a little bit from this article and just comment, kind of like I do, just to read a little bit of the article and comment my thoughts on that. How y'all feel about that? All right. So like I said, this is Mark Manson, and he's talking about setting strong personal boundaries. And so PSA, setting strong personal boundaries is not a cure-all for your relationship woes or your lost keys. In fact, they're more of a side effect of having a healthy self-esteem and generally low levels of neediness with people around you. All right, so I'm gonna read a little bit of this article and just comment here and there. All right, just a little fireside chat. All right, so boundaries in relationships work both ways. They create emotional health and are created by people with emotional health. There's something you can start working on today with the people close to you, and you'll begin to notice a difference in your self-esteem, confidence, emotional stability, and so on. And yes, believe it or not, boundaries are also hot. And so for me creating boundaries and speaking up for myself, and Ben, you are your best self-advocate. You are the person that just has your best interest at heart. Who else has a better interest at heart for you than you? So you're your best self-advocate. So speak up for yourself. And I know that I have built boundaries and not felt the need to say yes to everything. Because what I used to do, and people would probably think that I was a fickle, or what they call it, a flake, because I would say that I would want to do something, and then when it comes down to doing it, as the day grows closer and closer and closer, I'm like, man, I really don't want to do this. And if I would have said no in the first place, then it's like people would, I became in the habit of saying yes to something, and then the day before, the day of, I'm ended up telling the person like some type of excuse because I don't want to go when I didn't want to go in the first place. And I feel like that people wouldn't want to ask me to go anywhere because I would never be honest and say if I wanted to go somewhere. If I didn't, I would just say yes to everything because I felt like if I said no, I would make someone angry. Who out there can relate to that? And so I don't know. I'm just gonna, like I said, go through a few points of this article and just highlight that. Okay, so let's go. So here is a do you have boundary issues? So Mark Manson, Manson, he has some bullet points. It's just for us to go through to see do we have issues with boundaries? Okay, so I'm gonna ask you a few of these questions. If they hit home, maybe I know me, I have issues with boundaries, but I'm overcoming that. I'm speaking up for myself when I don't want to do something. Be a woman. I want to be a woman of my word. So if I don't want to do something, flat out say I don't want to do it. And speak that, and don't wait until the day of, because people will start to say that you're a flake because they think you're coming somewhere, and then when it comes down to it, I flake, I pull out. So they're thinking I'm going to be there. So if I'm honest in the first place and say yes, let my yeses mean yes and my no's mean no's. All right. So here's some questions that you can ask yourself to see if you having issues with boundaries. Do you ever feel like people take advantage of you or use your emotions for their own gain? Do you ever feel like you're constantly having to save people close to you and fix their problems all the time? Me, I was the one with the S on the chest that my girl Alicia Keys says in her song, that felt like I had to fix everything. I had that savior mentality. Do you find yourself sucked into pointless fighting or debating regularly? Do you find yourself far, whole bunch of A's, far more invested or attracted to a person than you should be for how long you've known them? In your relationship, does it feel like things are always either amazing or horrible with no in between? And that's me. That black and white thinking is like either you're great, you do one thing, and you're not great anymore in my book, and I'm working on it. Or perhaps you even go through the breakup reunion pattern every few months. So in your relationship, does it feel like things are always either amazing or horrible with no in between? Or perhaps you even go through the breakup reunion pattern every few months. All right. Do you tell people how much you hate drama, but seem to always be stuck in the middle of it? Do you put yourself in other people's drama? I hate drama, but I know that sometimes I feel like I could fix everything. And I was like, oh yeah, so and so. I put myself in the middle of stuff where I don't even have to be there. Are you guilty of that? Do you spend a lot of time defending yourself for things you believe aren't your fault? If you answer yes to even a few of the above, then you probably set and maintain poor boundaries in your relationship. If you answer a resounding yes to most or all of the items of above, you not only have a major boundary problem in your relationship, but you also probably have some other personal problems going on in your life. Oh, wow. So what are personal boundaries? And so before we go to fix these boundary issues, let's talk about what they are. Healthy personal boundaries equals taking responsibility for your own actions and emotions while not taking responsibility for the actions or emotions of others. You only can control you. You can't control your sister, your brother, your mother, your friends, anybody. You are only responsible for you. So do not take on, do not take on responsibility of others because it's exhausting. I was exhausted taking on everybody's responsibility, trying to be captain, save everybody, trying to be superwoman, and forgetting about myself. And so I had issues with boundaries. Like I said, I'm working on it. People with poor boundaries typically come in two flavors. Those who take too much responsibility for the emotions and actions of others, and those who expect others to take too much responsibility for their own emotions and actions. Interestingly, there are two types of people who often end up relationships together. Some examples of poor boundaries are, you can't go out with your friends without me. You know how jealous I get? You have to stay home with me. People trying to make you feel guilty for going out. Sorry guys, I can't go out with you tonight. My girlfriend gets really angry when I go out without her. My coworkers are idiots and I'm always late to meetings because I have to tell them how to do their jobs. I love to take that job in Milwaukee, but my mother would never forgive me for moving so far away. I can date you, but you cannot tell my friend Cindy. She gets really jealous when I have a boyfriend and she doesn't. In each scenario, the person is either taking responsibility for actions and emotions that are not theirs, or they are demanding that someone else take responsibility for their actions or emotions. They're either not holding themselves accountable or they're holding other people accountable for their actions. Raise my hand, that's me. I've been there. So personal boundaries and self-esteem go hand in hand. Taking responsibility for your own actions and not blaming others are two of the pillars in Nathaniel Branden's 6 pillars of self-esteem, arguably the most authoritative work on the topic. People with high self-esteem have strong personal boundaries, and practicing strong personal boundaries is one way to build self-esteem. Another way is to think of boundaries in terms of identity. When you have these murky areas of responsibility for your emotions and actions, areas where it's unclear who is responsible for what or who's at fault, why you're doing what you're doing, you never develop a solid identity for yourself. For instance, if you're really into judo, you're always blaming your teacher for your lack of progress and feel guilty about going to classes because your wife gets lonely when you're not around. Then you're not owning that aspect of your identity. Judo is now something you do and not something you are. It becomes inauthentic, another tool in the game of getting social approval rather than to satisfy your own desire to express yourself. This is neediness, and the dependence on external approval will drive your self-esteem lower and make your behavior less attractive. Man, why are boundaries good for you? Not only do personal boundaries boost your self-esteem and bolster your sense of self-identity, they also make life a lot easier. Imagine a scenario where you don't let people take advantage of you. You never have to fix other people's problems unless you truly want to. You don't have to make anybody's problem your problem. I mean, I have enough to deal with that I don't need to take on anyone else's problem. You don't have to fix everyone's problem. People will be okay. People will be okay. Let them think for themselves. Let them make decisions for themselves. You don't even have to take your parents' problems on. You don't have to take your sister's problems on, your brother, your cousin. Nobody problems on but your own. You don't get sucked into pointless arguments and heated debates. Not every little thing your family, partner, friends, colleagues do bothers or worries you. You coldly look on while others get caught up in drama. In fact, you barely remember what it feels like to be embroiled in so much mess at all. All right, so now imagine a day where it plays out where you don't have to deal with anyone's drama but your own. If there's some drama coming, if someone's always calling you and you're looking at the phone and you don't even want to talk to that person, but you pick it up anyway, then you're doing a disservice to your own boundaries. You're not respecting your own boundaries, because if that person is always calling you and just dumping, I feel like, so let's look at Oscar the Grouch with the trash or just a trash can in general. If someone in your family or one of your family or friends are always just dumping their trash on you and you're just letting them, and you don't like drama, but someone's always coming with drama, and you always feel the need to fix everyone's problems, and I would say I've been there, then we probably have an issue with personal boundaries, okay? So, like I said, you don't have to take on anyone's problems but your own. All right, so poor boundaries in intimate relationships. I believe boundary issues are the most difficult to deal with at the family level. You can always dump a horrible boyfriend or girlfriend, and divorce is always but a phone call or 12 away, but you can never dump your parents. If you have boundary issues in your family, then it's very likely you have them in your romantic relationship as well. And your relationships are the best place to begin fixing them. Chances are, at some point, you've been in a relationship that feels like a roller coaster. When things were good, they were great. When things were bad, they were a disaster. And then there was an almost predictable oscillation between the 2 weeks of bliss, followed by 1 week of hell, followed by another month of bliss, followed by a horrible breakup, and then a dramatic reunion. It's a hallmark of codependent relationships and usually represents two people incapable of strong personal boundaries. Wow. Poor boundaries and neediness. People lack boundaries because they have a high level of neediness, or in psych terms, codependence. People who are needy or codependent have a desperate need for love and affection from others. To receive this love and affection, they truly sacrifice their identity and remove their boundaries. I know for me, I was driving my car everywhere, picking people up, loaning people money, trying to stand up late when I need to go to work, doing all these type of things, and just not even considering I'm tired, I don't feel like dealing with it, I have my own stuff to deal with, I don't have time to deal with your stuff. Wow. So people who blame others for their emotions and actions do so because they believe if they put the responsibility on those around them, they'll receive the love they've always wanted and needed. If they constantly paint themselves as a victim, eventually someone will come to save them. People who take the blame for other people's emotions and actions are always looking to save someone. They believe if they can fix their partner, then they will receive the love and appreciation they've always wanted. Predictably, these two types of people are drawn so strongly to one another, their pathologies match one another perfectly, and often they've grown up with parents who exhibit each one of these traits. So their model for a happy relationship is one based on neediness and poor boundaries. Ironically, they both fail completely in meeting the other's needs. In fact, they both only serve to perpetuate the neediness and low self-esteem that is keeping them from getting their emotional needs met. The victim creates more and more problems to solve, and the savior solves and solves. But the love and appreciation they've always needed are never actually transmitted to one another. Wow. Boy, this is hitting all the way home. So now I want to tell you what healthy boundaries look like. Countless people have come to me over the years with, boundaries are nice, but what do they look like? So let me show you a few examples from the major domains of our life, because while personal boundaries are particularly crucial in intimate relationships, They also highly influence our friendships, family relationships, and even professional ones. So here's an example. John, we've been working together for 5 years. I can't believe you messed me over like that in front of our boss. But you got the data sheet incorrect. It was important that the correct numbers were submitted. Yeah, but you're supposed to back me up. You made me look like a fool. You don't have to disagree with me in front of everybody like that. Look, I like you. You're my friend, but I'm not going to do your job for you, and that's the end of the discussion. I am doing my job. Good, then it shouldn't matter what I say then. So some friends are maybe a little too bit close for comfort. This situation comes up in various forms of everybody relationship. Longtime friends screw up, but instead of taking personal responsibility, expects you to shoulder some of the responsibility with them because that's what friends do. Accepting this leads to codependent and unhealthy friendships. Yes, even friendships can be needy and unattractive. Ever met two friends who are constantly complaining about one another or saying things behind each other's backs, but when they're together, everything seems great? I've been there. The friend gets on your nerves, the person gets on your nerves, but when you come together, you're perfect. There's roses. Nobody complains about anything. Nobody tells anyone the truth. And I feel like if we have people in our life that are afraid to tell us the truth, then somewhere the boundaries have been broken, because the friendships that we have, the family members that we should have the decency to speak up and tell each other the truth, or have the courage to tell each other the truth. So let's see. Let's get on down to more of the how to set healthy boundaries. Poor boundaries are always almost a reflection of low self-esteem and vice versa, and something needs to be done to address the one for the other to improve. Let's start with self-esteem. To build self-esteem, you need to first understand that it's simply a byproduct of being a competent, well-adjusted human being. Self-esteem is not something that you pursue for its own sake. Doing that isn't only helpful, it's toxic. So self-esteem is how you think about what you're doing in life relative to how everyone else is doing. If you have low self-esteem, most likely you're not doing well by some metric. You're comparing yourself in some type of way to someone else. Excuse me. And the most important thing you can do is to practice compassion for yourself. Everyone lacks something or fails in some ways. Don't be so hard on yourself. Accept your flaws and learn to be comfortable with them. Then work on becoming better. It's by accepting yourself as you are and then working on yourself that you can build self-esteem. This is hard work and it takes time, but you'll end up in a far nicer place than you are now. As you come to feel higher esteem for yourself, healthy boundaries will slowly emerge in your life. You instinctively know what you will or what you will not tolerate from others. You will draw the line and enforce it and remove yourself from toxic relationships. So if this doesn't happen for you naturally, here are some steps you can take on the boundaries front. Set your boundaries literally. This is easier said than done, but you will get nowhere unless you define what your personal boundaries are. What will you tolerate or not tolerate in your life? What will you accept from others or not accept from others? From your family members, your parents, your friends, your colleagues, your mailman, the guys upstairs, your Tinder date. Decide what consequences will happen if someone breaks one of your rules. This is bound to happen often, and it will be difficult to think of what the consequences should be once it does. You will be biased by the person, the context, and the myriad of other factors. So decide from the get-go. What is the consequences if someone breaks your boundary? What are you going to do? Communicate the above clearly. Make your boundaries known. This is particularly important for the people closest to you. It's probably okay for the mailman to not know all your boundaries, save for the basic ones like not breaking down your door to deliver mail. But it's absolutely not all right for your partner not to know when they're crossing the line. Tell your boundaries from the get-go, from jump. What are your boundaries and what will happen if someone breaks them? Follow through. If someone crosses your boundaries, do what you said you would do. Be compassionate, but be firm. If you say to someone, if they don't call you after a certain time, you're in the bed, and if they call you, what are you going to do? Are you going to roll over and answer the phone anyway? Or are you going to check them the next day when you wake up and say that I told you don't call me after 10 or whatever, but they called you anyway? Or are you going to follow through, or are you just going to make empty threats? Make sure that when you say these are your boundaries, and when someone crosses them, stick by your word. Stand by what you say you were going to do if someone crosses them. All right, so relationships can be difficult, and we need to learn how to set boundaries from the get-go. And mostly, like he said, I feel like self-esteem, wanting codependency, wanting everyone to like you, wanting to be needed, wanting everyone to just forgetting about yourself and not saying that this is what I want, this is what I need, this is what I tolerate, and this is because I feel like people will treat you how you allow them to treat you, because people say, oh man, this person treats this person so badly, but they're accepting it. We're accepting people treating us like that. And so it's all about what you will accept, what you will tolerate, what you will not tolerate. Draw that line in the sand. If somebody crosses over it, what happens? Don't just make empty threats or empty promises or saying that if you do this to me, this is gonna happen. When the person does it, they like kids, you tell them don't do this, and then like empty threats. Like with a child, you say that do your homework. If you don't do your homework, you're not gonna go to Dave & Buster's on Saturday. But when Saturday comes, you let the child go to Dave & Buster's. They're not gonna respect you because you said that you made these empty threats. You said if these consequences, this is gonna happen. But then when Saturday came, you let them go. So lay your boundaries out and tell the consequences from jump and stand by it. Anybody feel like that you are important just as the next person. You matter. You are enough. And it's not about being the best friend by letting people walk all over you. And as a Christian, and I'm a Christian, it's like we're not doormats. We're not here just to let people walk all over us and do whatever they want to do. No. You know what Jesus? I said Jesus is a gangster. Jesus was about it. Jesus went off on a lot of people and spoke his mind and was up front. Jesus was his best self-advocate, and we are our best self-advocates. So speak up for yourself and don't let people walk all over you. Because that doesn't mean you're a Christian because you let people walk all over you. But you can do it in love. You don't have to go off and fly off the handle and curse people out and do it and things like that. You can do it in love. But when you say something, you control how people treat you. You control what you allow, what you're willing not to tolerate. All right. So like I said, this episode was just inspired by Ayama and just with our parents. It just hit home for me being a grown adult, having parents that, because my mom, that I'm still an adult and I'm able to tell her what I want and what I need and the decisions that I make in a respectful manner, and not be ashamed or afraid to share things with her because I feel like what she's gonna say, because she lived her life and I'm responsible for living my life. So this is all about respecting boundaries with everyone in your life and building up your self-esteem and giving yourself some grace and giving yourself some compassion. The same compassion that you give to the next person, give it to yourself. All right. So I truly appreciate you all for stopping by. I cannot do this show without you. This is like sometimes the highlight of my week. This is like my therapy. I go to therapy, but sometimes just me talking through my week and just sharing what was on my heart. It may be something to help you. Maybe you've been struggling with boundaries. And so we're all about, at this podcast, we're all about inspiring one another. It's just not about me inspiring you. It's about you inspiring me and me inspiring you. And we're working together to figure out this thing called life. And so I truly appreciate you all for coming back each week to rock with me and to share, to listen to my story. So this week I challenge you to set boundaries in your life. I know for me, sometimes if you are so frustrated all the time and you feel exhausted and feel like you're being pulled every which way, because you can't say, I've said it before, you can't say yes to everything and be good at anything. So no is a sentence. You don't need anything, a no, period. You don't need anything else to say no. Respect your boundary, respect yourself enough to know that you running yourself crazy and doing all these things, and the person that you're doing this stuff to is relaxing over there, kicking their feet up and enjoying life, while you over here trying to please everybody but yourself. Think about that. Pleasing everybody but yourself. You're pleasing that person pleasing themselves, but you're running yourself rampant trying to please them. We can't even please ourselves all the time, so we don't even try to please someone else. All right, so this week I challenge you to start to set boundaries with your parents, with your spouse, with your partner, with everybody in your life. Set those boundaries and speak those consequences and abide by those consequences. If someone crosses the line, stick to the consequences and don't just give out those empty threats, empty promises, okay? So again, thank you all. And I cannot leave you all without quoting my favorite scripture found in Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the thoughts I think towards you, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end. God's going to bring us to our expected end. You and me. So go out there this week. Continue to be great. Continue to be amazing. Oh, yeah. And I hope you all had a great Mother's Day. And for all of you out there that may have a rocky relationship with your mother, I talked about how my mother and our relationship has grown over the years and that we're in a better place. But everybody doesn't have that. And your mom may be here and you may not speak to her. Or you may have a rocky relationship. I pray that God touches that relationship and that his will is done in the relationship, that you all can heal and come to some sort of some sort of agreement where you all can speak, because you only get one parent. I know that sometimes we don't get to choose the parent that we get that we have, and sometimes they may have hurt you in ways that is unexplainable that I can't even mention. But hopefully you come to some sort of healing where you can just be cordial with one another. And if not, maybe if it's unhealthy relationship, sometimes we gotta cut our ties, even if it is our parent, and if it's some kind of way unhealthy for you, or the person won't respect your boundaries. So I know some people mothers passed away, and it might have been a rough Mother's Day for them as well. So I pray that God comfort your heart through this time. And I can understand that, because I lost my grandmother, so I think about her too. Not only on Mother's Day, but all the time. Sometimes I think about my grandmother. So I pray that God comforts you. But I hope everyone had a great weekend. And I thank you all for rocking with me and coming back to my channel. And continue to speak your words of affirmation every day. As you wake up, say, I am enough. I am beautiful. I'm the head. I'm not the tail. I'm a leader. I'm a lender, not the borrower. I am above and not beneath. I matter. I'm enough. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. I am somebody. Speak those words of affirmation every day. Until next week, nice to meet you. Let's go.